Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Live's belated Falcons versus Patriots Week 11 post-game show. Thursday night football recap. Very exciting stuff, except it wasn't very exciting because the Falcons were blown out to the tune of 25-0 on the back of an actually pretty inspiring day from the defense and a total collapse from the offense, sadly, that culminated in a game that was like oddly watchable for like the first, little bit. But as it went on, the realization that this was not going to be a successful outing for the Falcons, crept up on you slowly, just like the specter of death that we all must confront in its time. But on that positive note, I would like to welcome into the show Matt Chambers. He is at Falcoholic Matt, making, I believe, his second ever appearance on the show. So this is a very special occasion. Matt, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm good. I watched our team completely fall apart, to a national audience for the umpteenth time in, I don't know, the last 3, 4, 5 years, what have you. So I'm doing great.
Yeah, excellent. Very positive. I like it. Also with us tonight by request of the fans, we have Adnan Ikic at Say Which Way on the Twitters. Adnan, everyone wants you to be angry, Adnan, but I understand that the Falcons have officially broken you, and now you are just Sadnan.
I wouldn't say I'm broken. I'm just not gonna let this team, rile me up anymore. It's just, they're a bad football team. It's a bad roster. It's not like 2017, 2018 when I had legitimate expectations. My expectations were just, I want us to be competitive in November and December this year, and technically we're still kind of in the hunt somehow. So
very competitive.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all I could ask for this year. There's 3 of us on the show. That represents the amount of points that the Falcons have scored in the past 2 games combined.
Well, that's a great stat. I love that. That's next level stuff right there. On
that's
3
analytics
points
right there.
3 points. Also, the number of points the Falcons at least should have scored against the Patriots last night due to illegal formation that took a field goal off the board. So.
After a 3rd and 1, 15-yard sack.
Yes. Well, we're going to get to the 4th and short play calling. That is definitely something we're going to address. But I want to start out with the positives. And to me, the positives center entirely around the defense, which got their asses kicked against the Cowboys. Like, they were a complete train wreck. They were, just out-talented on every position on the field. To give them their credit, they rebounded in this game. They put together a quality performance. The Patriots' offensive line is fully healthy now. It's one of the biggest and baddest in the league. And the Falcons, to their credit, they didn't get blown off the ball in the run game. They were solid on run defense, and they did actually get some pressure on Mac Jones. They had a few sacks. The blitzing was effective. And ultimately, I think the coverage held up, even though the Patriots didn't really ever have to really push the ball downfield or anything like that. But, Adnan, I'll let you get the first crack here. What is your, is that, did you have a positive, opinion of the defense's play in this one for the most part?
Bro, the defense gave up 19 points in this entire game. I will sign up for my defense to give up that many points in any NFL game, especially in the year 2021, where all these, high-scoring offenses are out there. The Patriots, I think, are coming off a game where they dropped 45 on Cleveland's head on Sunday.
Yeah.
The Patriots have been very, very hot recently, and the defense, I could not have asked for more from the defense. A.J. Terrell got his first interception. His PFF coverage grade was absolutely incredible, even though he got, I think they credited him with giving up that touchdown to Aguilar, which was just a very, very weird play.
Yeah, it was a blown assignment somewhere.
Yeah, Aguilar got the ball, and there was nobody within 5 yards of him on any side, and he just kind of waltzed into the end zone. But, I got to give credit to Dean Pease. He called blitzes at the perfect time. They were getting home. They were pressuring Mac Jones. Mac Jones was kind of making some mistakes here and there, and they were taking advantage of it. I think they only gave up, correct me if I'm wrong, did they only give up the 1 touchdown and everything else was field goals?
Yep.
Yeah, it's 19 points given up. I mean, I'm signing up for that. If the offense would have gone out there and scored 3 touchdowns, not giving up the pick six, we'd be talking even more about how amazing this defense was. But unfortunately, when the offensive unit is that bad, they kind of drag everything down to the point where people are waking up this morning very upset, rightfully upset, saying, "Oh yeah, this team was outright terrible on all fronts." It wasn't terrible on all fronts. The defense was actually very good last night.
Yeah, the special teams, I would say, was a very mixed bag. I don't necessarily blame Koo entirely for the miss. I don't really know what happened. It looked like it was going to be good, and it just sort of curved at the last second. I don't know if there was some sort of weird, gust coming from the bowels of the stadium, just to say oh, this game's a real stinker, and it just blew out something. But it was a weird one, and he made the first kick, and then the team screwed him. So I think it's hard to fault Koo for that one. You should never force your kicker to kick again. That's just really dumb. But the defense, I think, had one of their best games of the season against an offense that, like you said, just dropped 45 on one of the NFL's better defenses in terms of talent. Matt, what was your takeaway on that? Were you impressed with the defense too?
You guys are pretty optimistic here, especially about a pretty bad defense. Obviously, last night, there were fewer points given out, but I kind of have to take a look at it from the Patriots' perspective because they never at any time felt like they had to score. They were able to play the game that they wanted to play with their rookie quarterback. What's his middle name? McCorkle.
McCorkle.
How do you pronounce that? McCorkle. Oh, it's even worse than I remember.
Name.
Yeah.
That's so unpreferable.
It's very white. Yep.
But really, I feel like the Patriots didn't really have to rush. They didn't have to feel worried. They didn't have to throw it deep, which McCorkle does not do particularly well. We saw him do it a few times last night, and one of those situations was where Terrell picked him, if memory serves. So. It's tough to say, especially considering it's one game, and we have seen this defense be very, very bad game in, game out. I know that there's almost no talent on it from top to bottom. So, I guess you can probably call that like a moral victory in there that they weren't hemorrhaging points and yards and everything like they typically do. But the Patriots were playing from a lead for pretty much the entire game. So
yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the defense. I'm not saying the defense is a good unit overall. It's a very talented division. I'm just saying they didn't really disappoint me last night. And how about the Patriots actually knowing to run the ball when they have a lead in the fourth quarter?
That's crazy talk. That's crazy talk right there. I don't know. I don't subscribe to that. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I like that. They weren't as disappointing as say expected. Sure. I think that's fine enough. We've got some pretty low expectations around here, and they were definitely not the problem last night. I'm not expecting them to slow up anybody else to under 20 points or anything anytime soon. But, I guess take your victories where you can.
Right. Yeah, that's all you can do. Yeah, the Falcons definitely weren't having a massively good game on defense. But I guess to me, the thing was, if you're the Patriots and you're dominating to the extent that you were, you shouldn't. The game shouldn't be within reach like that in the fourth quarter. The Falcons hadn't done a damn thing on offense all game, and it was still a 2-possession game until the Falcons' backup quarterbacks came in and started, chucking picks every single possession. I think it was a 13-point game until 6.5 minutes roughly left in the fourth quarter. So I think it's the Patriots didn't necessarily have a huge issue holding on to time of possession, and a lot of that was the Falcons' offense. But if the Falcons' offense could have done anything, there's a very good chance that at the end of this game, that it's a 1-possession game, and it's if the Patriots' offense is doing what it's supposed to do, it should be putting the game out of reach instead of leaving a door open for a slight chance for a Falcons comeback. So I'm willing to give them some credit for that. If you look at the yards per play metrics and stuff like that, it wasn't the Falcons necessarily held the Patriots to a terrible day, but they just they made the stops to keep the Patriots from scoring. For the most part, they kept it to field goals after the one touchdown, and even the one touchdown was just sort of a blown coverage. So, I think it's fair to say that, this defense still isn't like a world beater. But against an ascending offense, they did what they did. They held up their part of the bargain, I guess, is where I'm at with it. None of us should expect them to like hold any team to 0 points. Like that's never going to happen.
Yeah, they're not the Patriots defense.
They're not the Patriots defense, exactly. So, but yeah, it's we got a lot of tips coming in, so I definitely want to get to those. We'll just kind of, guys, I do see all of them. We will get to them, I promise. We're just going to get through our like quick thoughts here on both sides of the ball, and then we will get to your questions, just so everyone knows. Thank you guys so much for that. So let's transition to the dark side, which is the offensive side of the football, where the Falcons managed, 165 total yards of offense. Notably, the Falcons had 125 passing yards, which is only 50 less than the Patriots. The Patriots only had 174 passing yards. So it's not like the Patriots had a great offensive day. They really didn't, considering that they possessed the ball, for over 30 minutes in this game. The Patriots actually were 4 of 12 on offense, which is not great. The Falcons, however, were 2 of 11 on third down. So obviously not great. The Falcons also committed 4 turnovers on offense. So, 2 of them were thrown by backup quarterbacks when the game was well out of hand. But it's very, very bad for the Falcons offense when you can't get a yard in short yardage to save your life. And that was the situation they faced against the Patriots, where they had multiple short yardage situations, 1 yard to go, and they couldn't get it even once. And the play calls, I think, were absolutely something we should criticize. The offensive line, I think, was the big bugaboo in this game. They were terrible. The worst game of the season for Hennessy, the worst game of the season for Mayfield. Maybe not the worst game of the season for Mayfield, because I remember the beginning of the season, so I don't think it was that bad for him. But McGarry also had one of his worst games that I've ever seen. So, Matt, I'll give you the first crack at this one. What to you is the biggest issue on offense in this game? Or is it the whole thing is just completely falling apart?
Well, I can hop in here because I have some opinions.
Yeah, go for it.
This is actually a very rare time where typically, like if you go back to like 2013, 2014, you're looking at the offensive line and you're like, that right there, the offensive line is a disaster. Like there's nothing there. That is the problem. This is different because there are so many problems with every single level of the game. Like you mentioned, there are a lot of play calling problems. But then when you get to the roster, you have just disasters everywhere. The offensive line is just in shambles. Like they were just blowed off the ball seemingly every single play. Like I hadn't heard of half of those Patriots defensive linemen, and there were guys racking up like 2-3 sacks, no problem at all. And it's not just limited to the offensive line. The run game is bad. It's kind of funny when Quadre Ollison is like your top offensive running back. It's just such a disaster. Then you can move on to the wide receivers, and none of these guys should be starting. Like, Russell Gage was supposed to make that transition into this year, moving from a wide receiver 3 to a wide receiver 2, and to, really kind of put it together. And he's taken like several steps back. Right now, he's obviously, well, in theory, our wide receiver 1, and he's bad. And the farther you go down that depth chart, the worse everything gets. Like this is just an offense of mostly backups. Like you might have 2 or 3 people who would start on a good offense right now. Everyone else, they're all backups. This is a disaster, and you can't overcome a disaster with bad play calling, especially against the Patriots. I mean, I think that's how you end up with absolutely 0 points throughout, a 60-minute football game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. It was sort of a total collapse. It was very similar to what we saw last week too, but without Cordarrelle Patterson, who unexpectedly is sort of the glue, apparently holding the whole thing together. Patterson goes down, you're already down Ridley, and the rest of your weapons outside of Pitts aren't scaring anyone. And then you go up against a defense like the Patriots, who are going to take away your best weapon. That's sort of their MO. They did it. I mean, if you looked at the broadcast brought attention to it multiple times. Pitts was facing 2, sometimes even 3 defenders in coverage on plays, depending on how it was lined up. I mean, he would have somebody on him at the line, he would have somebody picking him up, and then he'd have a safety over top. And the Falcons don't have the personnel to punish teams for doing that. Like, teams can dedicate 2-3 players to Pitts. Falcons don't have the running game to punish them for lightening the box. They don't have any receivers that can create separation or really dominate a one-on-one. And they don't have the yards after catch players to go to this quick game, which they ended up having to do late because the O-line couldn't protect Matt Ryan at all. So the Falcons had to go to the quick game to throw screens to guys like Russell Gage, who provided maybe the worst rep of yards after catch situation that I've ever seen. And you're to the point where, like, Mike Davis is your best yards after catch receiver. He was the only one that was able to do anything with a dump off, and it was bad. So I agree that it's like a total failure on offense in that the offensive line had their worst game of the year collectively. The weapons are completely below par and can't get anything done. And then now that forces Matt Ryan to try to play hero ball, to try to get something done on every play, and predictably that's going to lead to issues. And Adnan, go ahead.
First, I would like to give some credit to the New England Patriots coaches and defense overall. Like, this is a legitimately good defense. I know that last year they had a lot of players opt out due to COVID, and it wasn't really up there. But overall, like, the Patriots defense has been very, very good for years. And like you said, Bill Belichick, he specializes in taking away the opposing team's best weapon. And last night, without Cordero Patterson, the Falcons only had one above average weapon on the field the entire game. Kyle Pitts, he gets taken away, and all of a sudden you're left with just a bunch of backups and practice squad level players, both with skill position players and along the offensive line. Like, that offensive line was absolutely horrendous last night. Yeah. They were opening up no lanes for the run game. There were those third and ones, 4th and 1 situations where they just got pushed back. When multiple offensive linemen get pushed back, you're not going to convert any yardage at all. I remember it was I think the 4th and 1 play, all 3 interior offensive linemen got pushed back. Like, I don't care if you put Jerome Bettis in the backfield. He's not converting that with Patriots defensive linemen meeting him 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Derrick Henry isn't getting that yard.
Yeah, it was unbelievably, bad overall. And, Matt Ryan also didn't have his best game either. He didn't have any help, but Matt Ryan the past couple games has not looked good at all after that amazing game against the Saints. And the only thing is, it doesn't matter how bad the talent is. When you score 3 points over the course of 2 games, there's blame to be had all across the board, and that includes the coaches. I understand there is a talent deficiency, but there's no reason to ever get completely shut out in a game. Blame does have to go to Arthur Smith and the coaching staff as well, because it's just looked really, really bad the past 5 days. And, this is a unit where all of the money's tied up in the offense. Like, we thought that the offense was going to carry us this season, and they have just looked like the worst unit in the NFL over weeks 10 and 11. Yeah,
they have. It's been really bad. And, a lot of people are calling the salary cap into question, for the Falcons' problems, and they're right. But a lot of people are focusing on the wrong player, and that's Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's salary cap this year is his hit right now is $27 million. Then obviously they did restructure a good portion of that to free up room, but Matt Ryan is only counting $27 million against the salary cap, which is a below average top quarterback salary at this point, considering that guys are getting close to $40 million now. The problem for the Falcons isn't that Matt Ryan's making a lot of money. It's that they have $26.5 million in dead cap right now. Julio Jones, almost $8 million. Desmond Trufant, $6 million. Still paying to Desmond Trufant. James Carpenter, 2.5. Ricardo Allen, over 2. Jamon Brown, almost 2. Alan Bailey, 1.6 million. And then a lot of like smaller numbers for guys that were cut. That's kind of unavoidable. But
and the thing is, if we're gonna be dishing out blame like this, the blame at a structural level goes to the previous regime. Dan Quinn, Thomas Dimitroff, they had incredibly short-sighted moves, and even taking it a step further, Arthur Blank keeping Dimitroff and Quinn after that disastrous 2019 is just as much of a problem as anything else, because of course Dimitroff and Quinn were going to go out there and just throw caution to the wind with some short-sighted moves in 2020 because their job was on the line. I don't blame them at all for that. It also falls on the owner, because you should have had the wherewithal to fire them when everyone in the world, everyone in the fan base knew that their time was up after 2019, and you staying loyal to them and giving them that extra off season in 2020 is just as much of a reason why this team is where it is as anything else.
Yes, that's a huge factor in all this, is that we all knew, and we said this at the time, like, they needed to move on after 2019. They had to, because you were putting Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff in the situation where now you're saying you have 1 year to save your jobs. So of course they're going to do everything they can to save their jobs. They're not going to do what they need to do for the team. Like, they're not going to do the right thing long term for the team. They're going to try to save their jobs. So of course they're going to go all out to maximize the roster. Now, of course, they screwed it up royally. Like, they did a terrible job. The team at 4-12. But now not only
that's wild though. Your job is on the line, and you go pay. Their job's on the line. They pay Dante Fowler like almost $50 million. Like, that's a bad call when you're already right up on the cap. Like, it's kind of funny, because I remember that off season, and we had a lot of articles about how, hey, look, there's only so much cap room. The Falcons can only do so much here. They need to be really smart and really diligent with what they do. And then we had, I want to say like Rich McKay or someone was like, no, you can get really creative with the cap. I was like, oh no, what does that mean? What does that mean? And they blew all their money on Dante Fowler, who, guess what, was not worth that deal. They got AJ Terrell, which, thank goodness, Dimitroff was always able to, scout those corners. Everything else was a complete disaster. The offensive line, which they, fixed the year prior, continued to be a complete disaster. That's kind of carrying into here. It's just, it's just kind of a mind-boggling off season where, there was such little space to succeed, and obviously it fell apart really quickly. So we are still kind of dealing with that Dante Fowler's deal and some of those other contracts. I cannot believe we still have cap space dedicated to Desmond Trufant.
$6 million.
He must have left in like 2017. It's been a while.
Yeah, $6 million for still paying Desmond Trufant. Yeah, I still don't understand that move. To this day, I thought that was a terrible decision. Like, if they had waited one more year to cut Trufant, he would have been off the books by now, and they would have saved more money. But no, they were like, no, we have to maximize the roster. We're getting Trufant off the books so we can sign somebody else. And like, what do you know? The team was terrible either way. So the irresponsible move tended out to be the irresponsible move in the end. So,
but that's what
it's not even the most irresponsible move. Like, no. I don't even know if that's top 5 in the last, the final 2 years of Dimitroff. There are so many ones where you're like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, they started paying like James Carpenter and and a couple of these guards, and I was like, how much are they paying them?
Yeah, Jamon Brown had been the starter for like a season. That was his only ever year.
It wasn't even a
starter.
season. I think
it was like some games.
I think he had like a partial season start, and that was it. And then I think they gave him like an $18 million deal, something like that. It was just bonkers because like they already didn't have money. So you're like, okay, a bunch of these guys who have not worked out elsewhere are gonna fix the offensive line. I think there was a little period of time where like we didn't even know where they were going to start because they drafted Lindstrom. Like 16th overall, something like that. Yeah. Just another one of those like fantastic Dimitroff disasters that anyone could have avoided.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, go ahead.
I was going to say, as long as I don't have to watch those shitty videos of him trying to justify every draft pick, on the 3 draft nights. It's like, oh, we'll make the pick. 2 minutes later, Falcon social media comes out with Thomas Dimitroff giving like a 30-second synopsis. Like, bro, focus on the war room. Like,
like the draft's still going. Like, yeah. I mean, if you want to dig deep on the problems of this team, which I know you guys do, especially the people watching, you go back to 2017's draft class. That's where it all begins, right? The draft picks in 2017. Let me list them off for you guys in case you forgot.
Ooh.
Tack McKinley at number 1, where they traded up, by the way. They gave up their second-round pick for him. Duke Riley.
That one was so frustrating because they had clearly, they were clearly zoned in on a pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
So they obviously evaluated all the pass rushers that were going to be available to them. One of those was, is it TJ Watt? The Steelers pass rusher. So they checked him out. He was still on the board, and they were like, you know what? We like Tack McKinley this much more than this other guy. Like, if you waited, like, you could have had both drop down, and you could have taken whoever's still available or something like that. Maybe you end up with Watt. That would have definitely been better than McKinley, obviously. But that's one of those moves where you give up draft capital to get a player, and that player doesn't work out. So you haven't just lost that one player that you took in the first round. You also lost that extra draft pick you used to trade up. Guess what? Your roster isn't, it's not strong enough to outlast that. And they did that multiple times. I mean, same thing with Caleb McGarry. I think they traded a 3rd round pick to jump back up into the 1st round for him. Yeah. No one knows why.
Exactly.
He's still not good. He cost a lot, and he's still kind of needs to replace him. Yeah.
Even at the time, the Caleb McGarry pick was like,
that was a puzzling one. I did my best to spin that shit. I should get a check from the Falcons for the amount of effort I tried to put into like making that a good pick, and I should have trusted my instincts, which is this is a huge reach. That's what I thought at the time. I tried to come around on it, and that was a mistake because it was a huge reach, and it was a huge reach. Even worse when you consider that they traded up for him. But there's not a single player.
It was like a Lamar Holmes pick.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Where you're looking at it, and you're like, this doesn't make any damn sense. Like, where are you putting this guy? Like, this guy is slow, and they're trying to drop him out at a tackle. Actually, I guess, exact same problem. Dimitroff never learned from all his past failures of drafting really shitty tackles. So
to this day, I still argue that he should have been kicked out with Mike Smith. That was another Arthur Blank just blunder.
He's loyal to his guys. That's how it is. That's who he is.
Why are you firing Smith and keeping Dimitroff when they were pretty much a package deal?
Yep. Giving him too much credit for Julio and Matt Ryan, probably. That's my guess. But yeah, I mean, 2017, not a single player from that roster is on the Falcons. Not a single one of them is really a good starter anywhere. I think DeMonte Casey's playing some for the Cowboys, but that's about it from that class. 2018.
Is Keanu Neal, is he getting any snaps right now?
I think he is.
That's something I actually don't know.
I think he is playing a significant role, if not a starting role, but I think he's playing at least 50% of snaps for Dallas. So he does have a role there. 2018 was better, right? Calvin Ridley, Oliver, who that pick looks a lot, is starting to look better. I think he was on track for a really good season this year. So that was a slow burner, that pick. So I guess, we'll see, the jury's still out on that one, I guess. That's more, but in the 2nd round, that's still rich based on what they've got. Deidre Sanat in the 3rd, Ito Smith, Russell Gage and Foye Oloken kind of saving that class, right?
Yeah,
that's good return on those 6 rounders. Yeah. That's good return. So that class wasn't necessarily the problem. 2019, huge problem. Now, obviously, you get the layup in Chris Lindstrom. You take maybe the best offensive lineman in the class. So I'm hesitant to give too much credit for taking a guard at 14 because it's I picked 14. I'm going to take the best guard. If you screw up that pick, you're an idiot. So the trade up for McGarry, obviously bad, very, very bad, because the Falcons then didn't pick again until the 4th round where they took Kendall Sheffield and John Kaminsky, who are both looking like pretty massive busts right now. Quadri Olison, who until recently was on the practice squad, has barely played. He did look good this week, to give him credit. He looked better than the other running backs. Jordan Miller, who was cut, and Marcus Green, who didn't even make the roster. So that class was a disaster. Last year's class, I think, is maybe more promising. AJ Terrell looks like a star, so that obviously helps. Marlon Davidson, jury's still out. Matt Hennessy is starting, that one as a 3rd-round pick, still in his first year of starting, with jury's still out. Michael Walker hasn't played much, but again, 4th-rounder, still wait and see. Jalen Hawkins, I think, is a good pick, too. So I think this class has some potential. Obviously, you cut Sterling Hoffrichter, but as 7th-round punter, who cares, really? And then, obviously, 2021, it's too early to really evaluate at all. But, I know people are really upset about the Richie Grant pick, and, I think you're justified if you wanted them to take someone that was going to contribute immediately. I think that if they actually were serious about wanting to win this season, they would have taken a draft class that was more ready to go. But I think looking at this draft class really tells you how much the Falcons actually weren't trying to compete right now. Richie Grant, apparently they weren't even trying to play this year much. Jalen Mayfield, a project offensive lineman. Darren Hall, they weren't apparently wanting to play him much at all. Drew Dahlman's like a reserve interior offensive lineman. Like Taquan Graham and Ogundeji, like all these guys are sort of projects. And Ogundeji's played better than you could have hoped at this point. Avery Williams, honestly, the fact that he can even start games at corner and not get blown off the turf by anyone not named CeeDee Lamb, that's a pretty good return on a 5th-round pick. So, I think this class has potential, but what I'm getting at is, all the classes prior to this one, and maybe 2020 to an extent, are what has robbed this team of depth. And add in the fact of all these terrible contracts that are piling up, the expensive moves that had to be made to get rid of Julio and Desmond Trufant, and all of these bad contracts, it is weighing this team down to a huge extent. And that's where the problem comes in. It's not Matt Ryan's contract. The Falcons have, funny enough, Matt Ryan's cap number is $26.9 million. The Falcons currently, in dead money, have $26.54 million. So it ain't Matt Ryan's contract that's the problem. It's the freaking dead money that's the same amount as goddamn Matt Ryan's contract that's the problem. That's a quarterback contract in dead cap. So if you want to get mad at a contract, get mad at all those contracts that are in the trash can right now. So to be clear. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to say on that before we get to what is actually becoming an extremely long list of questions. So we should probably start that soon.
I did want to say I've been told that the Falcons can do some creative things with cap space, so I'm shocked that it's not working out well.
Yeah, I'm shocked, I say.
The only thing I have left to say about the subject is any team that hires Thomas Dimitroff as its general manager moving forward after this absolutely deserves to fail.
Yeah. I mean, it was mismanaged, but I guess it's obviously you blame the person who did it in Dimitroff, but you also blame Arthur Blank, like Adnan was saying, because he set this up and he knew this would happen. If you set it up and say, this is your chance, you have to win right now or you're going to get fired. Of course, Dimitroff's not going to give a shit about the cap in 3 years if he's trying to save his job in 2020. And he's going to do exactly what he did, which is maximize that season and screw over all future years for the chance to save his job. So in a lot of ways, this is at least partially Blank's fault for setting this up in the first place. So
can we go ahead and point out that for maybe Dimitroff's first, say 6 or 7 years, he was known as kind of a cap guru because Atlanta always had a lot of spending money, but it was usually because they never extended any of their rookies because they were so shitty. So it's just kind of funny. As soon as they had players they had to sign and extend, Grady Jarrett, Deion Jones, Matt Ryan on top of Julio, all that kind of disappeared. One of those fun narratives, guys. One of those fun narratives.
Yep, one of those very, very fun narratives. All right, starting things off on the question front, we have Salad Glove. I love that name. I don't know what that means, but good for you. $5 from Salad Glove, and he says only pain. So...
Agreed.
Yeah, strong agree. We got Jason.
That's the best question.
I like that one. Yeah, short and sweet.
Should have saved that one for last.
Exactly. That was the first one. That was before we even went on the air, I think. Just pain. So Jason Gaines with the $2. This is to you, Matt. He says, please bring back the Falcon sacrifice articles. Really enjoyed those. Yeah, there's some behind the scenes stuff going on with that, guys. But
don't get their hopes up.
Actually, yeah, I think it would fit a lot better this year. We actually started that in 2016, expecting the Falcons to continue playing like shit. And then they went to the Super Bowl, so maybe I was the good luck charm. But
maybe that's what we need to do. You just need to start writing them again.
Yeah, I think it fits a lot better in a losing season. Plus, we just kind of ran out of ideas of, for Dan Quinn and everything like that. But Arthur Smith, he's got some potential. It looks kind of like Nicolas Cage. Mm-hmm. I think I could get like 8 articles out of that.
Yeah, I think there's some good storylines there potentially.
But by the way, don't worry, this will not be the last losing season that we have. There's going to be plenty of opportunities in the future and the coming years. There'll
be more. Hopefully, next year, and then hopefully we'll be on the right track after that. But, I wouldn't be upset if next year wasn't a losing season either. But, we'll see how it goes. But Jason also says that he's really upset about that 4th and 1 run. Olsen also strangely got more carries than Gallman. Don't know what Arthur Smith is thinking. Gallman is a much better player than Olsen. I mean, Olsen, to his credit, I think got what was there and looked, fairly good. I don't know why they gave Gallman like 1 carry at the beginning of the game and then pulled him for getting tackled in the backfield because he, the offensive line got annihilated. So that wasn't his fault. But yeah, I think statistically speaking, Gallman has a lot more career production than Olsen. And I also agree that I think Gallman is more proven in terms of running behind a bad offensive line. But apparently this offensive line is way worse than the Giants last year because Gallman was averaging over 4.5 yards per carry behind that Giants offensive line last year. So bizarre. But we also have Michael Zurich with the $1.
I was also going to say,
go ahead. Yeah.
Mike Davis had a yard last night. 1.
Yes.
That's 1 more than I had and 3 more carries.
Yep. That's true. Good to know. Yeah, the run game is dead.
Still getting carries. I think we've seen more than enough from Mike Davis. As much as I wanted him to do well, he is not.
Yeah, that project is going to end at the end of this season, I assume.
Yep. Yeah. It's that's a possible cut. And honestly, no running backs really getting it done behind this offensive line, but Mike Davis is having the least success of all of the options right now. So, and in general, I think the run game, I think it should probably be mostly scrapped and just replaced with a quick passing screen game or just passes to the running back. But they don't really have any yards after catch threats to make that work right now. So even that's not really an option. So I don't know what to do with this offense in its current situation.
I'm not gonna lie, that Russell Gage screen where he had a defender in front of him and then just went down on first.
that was
so funny, bro. I started laughing at that. How do you have no elusiveness at all? You have the entire field to work with. What are you doing?
Yeah. Exactly.
Russell Gage is one weird guy. What was it, the Dallas game where he jumped 6 yards before the tackler came in?
Oh yeah. Now I think on that play he actually ended up getting more yards because his jump was so early. I think it actually surprised the defender, and he was like, "I don't know what to do here," and then he landed and got 4 more yards. So I don't think that was on purpose though. So.
I don't know what that guy is ever thinking. He's got a ton of talent, but he is confusing.
Yeah, very confusing to say the least. Yes, from Michael Zurich with the $1 says, getting sick of watching Ryan get smoked. He's going to be hurt soon if he isn't already. I think he's already hurt. Sorry, guys.
He got that toe injury last night.
That's something to monitor. I don't think it's going to keep Matt Ryan out of any games because Matt Ryan, despite whatever reputation he seems to get, is a very tough player. He generally doesn't miss games. So he's going to be playing hurt, more than likely.
Can you guys imagine what Sarah Ryan must be thinking watching Matt behind his offensive line?
Just fuming is what I would be doing. Yeah. So stupid. This offensive line is an abomination right now. He continues. Team already has no weapons, even more so with Ridley out. Too much slop. Awful short yardage calls. Bad penalties at bad times. # free Matt Ryan. Yeah, they got to do something. They got to do something. I'm not sure if that's something they can do this year, but I don't know. George Costanza with the $3.
They could.
What?
Yeah, they could fix the short yardage play calling. I feel like that's something possible, but right. I don't know if we're going to see that.
Yeah,
I'm still. I still want to kind of remember 2015 when Kyle Shanahan started. I was quite big on the fire Kyle Shanahan hashtag there, and I mean, maybe I was kind of right. Kyle Shanahan's still kind of working things out. But, 2016 came around and he helped get Atlanta to, 3/4 of a Super Bowl win. So, you have to kind of respect that. And I don't know. I'm just trying to keep a little bit of perspective with how Arthur Smith is managing with a terrible, terrible offense right now.
Yeah, I think we can blame Arthur Smith for what's clearly his fault. Some of those play calls, definitely some trying to establish the run when the run is nowhere to be found, especially on 1st and 15. Like that, he deserves blame for some of those in-game, very poor play calls. Overall, you can't blame him for the roster, and I don't think you can fully evaluate him until at least another year or two down the line when he actually has his own players here. Like, he's still working with, Dan Quinn's leftovers and Thomas Dimitrov's leftovers. I don't think it's fair to completely evaluate him as a head coach just yet.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Like, it's really tough. It's a bad situation for Arthur Smith. And you think sometimes you get coaches that come in and hit the ground running, but more often than not, those are on better rosters with, more established talent. And it's also partially luck. And Arthur Smith is a first-time head coach. Not every first-time head coach immediately takes to it and is just, perfect out of the gate. It's just, it doesn't happen that way every time. Arthur Smith has had to now try to roll with the punches to a huge extent. His number one wide receiver disappeared, for personal reasons, and we're not going to touch on that, but, he loses his number one receiver. Just leave it at that. His one sort of chess piece guy that was his ace in the hole, to be fair, if you want to be confident in Arthur Smith, look no further than Cordarrelle Patterson. He turned this guy that no one had ever really figured out how to use into an elite player. I mean, Patterson, before he got hurt, I think was the number 2 wide receiver in the NFL in yards per route run. That is nuts. He was 0.1 yard per route run behind Cooper Kupp. Okay? So that guy, he turned him into this amazing player. That guy goes out of the game. So now all you got is your rookie tight end and a bunch of Jags at wide receiver and a bunch of Jags at running back and a bad offensive line that they've been able to paper over at times, especially against bad pass rushes, but against good pass rushes, they're getting exposed. And I honestly don't know what to do because you can't run the ball. You don't have any threats in the screen game or the quick passing game. You don't have time to throw the ball deep, and you have limited options to do that even if you wanted to. What do you have? It's like smoke and mirrors. What are you going to do? You have no weapons, no offensive line, no run game. All you have is a quarterback, and we're seeing, just like it was for Kansas City in the Super Bowl, if you don't have the offensive line in place, you could have great weapons and a great quarterback, and you're still going to get crushed by good defenses, and that's exactly what we're seeing. So I just... I'm not sure, what Adnan said, and what I think Matt was saying too, is it's hard to evaluate this performance by Arthur Smith when he's got so little to work with. Who's gonna look good with this roster? If the Bucks coach Bruce Arians, he didn't have a great first season with a bad roster. Now people are talking about him as one of the best coaches in the NFL because he managed to fix it up the next year. But everyone wants to bury Arthur Smith for being stuck with this atrocity. So it's I don't know if Arthur Smith's going to turn into a great head coach, a good head coach, or just a bad head coach going forward. But I don't think we're going to learn a lot watching games like this, I guess is where I'm at with it. But what do you guys think about that?
I will say, though, Cordarrelle Patterson's agent has to have loved these last couple games. Since Patterson went out, we've scored 0 points in a full game and a half. He's probably seeing dollar signs right now in his head.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he's going to get paid, and probably from Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't even care. Because people will be like, "Oh, he's a running back; he doesn't deserve to get paid." He's a wide receiver, so I think considering how important he's been for this team, I don't mind paying him, but it can't be the only guy you add. It can't be the only guy that you have because even with Patterson in here, we need more weapons.
But he's doing better than Julio Jones this year.
Hell yeah! Who could have predicted this? So.
Yeah, Julio has another hamstring issue.
Yeah. It's rough, and like I feel bad for Julio, man, but it's clear that he's breaking down.
I will say Terry Fontenot. One thing I will give him credit for: that trade is looking like a heist for Atlanta right now.
Yes,
to not have to pay that contract next year is huge.
It is nice. It's very nice. It helps a lot next year, and there are ways to fix. The cap space may or may not be that big of an issue next year. Now the Falcons aren't going to be one of these teams that's like flush with cap space, but you make a couple moves. If you extend Ryan, you can free up $18 million there. Say you trade Deion Jones, that's almost $10 million. If they do decide to trade Ridley,
Grady.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think they're going to trade Grady, but Grady could be.
Grady.
Oh yeah, extend. Yeah,
Grady.
sorry. Yeah, if you extend Grady, you can free up a lot of money there too. If you trade Debo, that's almost $10 million. If they do decide to trade Ridley, that's like $11 million. Now they're probably going to flip that and then go sign another wide receiver if they do that. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's a bunch of money just floating around. But there are options out there. They also have some cuts they can make to save. But it's not going to be as bad as it was this year because the cap's going to go up too. But they're still not going to have a ton of money, and it's also going to be on the draft again. But at least they'll have more of a chance than they had this year. This year they had no chance to do anything. So, I think it's going to be a rough watch against good teams for this team. Against bad teams, I think they're going to be okay. Like they'll probably win some more games. But
they were pretty good against bad teams this year. Like for all of the talent deficiencies, this team is somehow still 4-6. Like it's unreal that this team has even won 4 games up to this point. And that's definitely a testament to Matt Ryan. In those games, he looked amazing against the Jets, against the Dolphins, against the Saints. They just barely won those games. I think Arthur Smith did a pretty good job in those games where they won them by a last-second field goal. But this team, the talent on this team, and given the cap implications coming into this season, this roster should not have 4 wins so far, but credit to them. They've taken advantage of some pretty weak teams. And, that's a step in the right direction right there. Like the teams from the past few years couldn't even beat the bad teams until it didn't matter. Yeah,
it's true. They've already matched last year's win total. So, Arthur Smith will be an upgrade either way, right? So just got to win one more game to be an upgrade.
They're road warriors out there because, they're not winning a single game at home.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like there's not a lot of fans at the stadium.
Yeah.
A lot of cheering. Weird.
Yeah, I will say, though, that I get they're trying, but that idea to, do that light up the stadium, before the game, that was just a terrible idea. It's like the Falcons made this, announcement that they want the fans to light their, cell phone flashlights for player introductions or something. That just shows how few fans are in the stadium. Don't bring any attention to that.
Yeah, they should just put the house lights down for all the home games. And at least people will be like, I think I saw some fans back there. Maybe it's full up or something.
What is that? They should have the cardboard cutouts. Yeah. Like they had for COVID, put those in there, season. Even though COVID's not a thing in terms of not being able to open the stadium, but you still have the cutouts, just to make it look more full. So.
I will say last year, it came in handy to them that those stadiums were super restricted because it would have been just as empty as it actually was last year. But last year they actually had the excuse of, because of COVID, we're not letting fans in. Fans weren't coming anyway.
Yeah, it's like, they had the excuse, but they don't have the excuse this year, and they're getting exposed for it. So, all right.
They should make that executive decision and just say, you know what, Delta's popping up around here. We're gonna close everything down for a little bit till we get a couple more wins.
Yep. Sorry, guys. Stadium's closed. Yep. That's why it's empty. That's why.
Yeah, J-Dub has a point. Bring back the fake crowd noise.
Yep. I think we need it at this point. So. All right, we got George Costanza with the $3. He says, my draft take. All right, got draft takes coming in hot from George. He says, had a man crush on Chris Olave for over a year. Reminds me of Santonio Holmes. Great hands and speed. Lacks a quarterback who can push the deep ball to show off that speed. Holmes had Krenzel, top 10 talent, going in the 20s. I think I think if the Falcons trade down, and like obviously we don't know where the Falcons are going to end up, if you go off the last 2 games, you're probably thinking top 10 pick. If you go off like the Saints game, you're probably like, they're probably going to be in the teens. So they're going to be somewhere in that range, right? But I think if the Falcons are in the top 10 and they don't necessarily love who's there for them and they don't want to take a quarterback, which I'm kind of doubting they will take a quarterback at this point, they're probably looking at a trade down. And I think a wide receiver after a trade down is a very realistic possibility. So it could be Chris Olave if he sticks around. I think George, he was sort of the wide receiver 1 going into the season. I don't really know why he's like fallen away from that, but other guys have sort of come up, and maybe Olave falls a little bit, but I mean, I would have no qualms whatsoever with Olave after some sort of trade down. But I think, taking a wide receiver in the top 10 is going to be very, very, very difficult to sell to fans. I don't think they should do that, but after a trade down, we can talk about it.
Yeah, it came out of your mouth, and I hated it.
Yeah. So after a trade down, you can justify a lot of things, but just a straight up top 10 wide receiver probably not going to work for this team.
Yeah, Nico in the chat is right. When George is giving draft takes, it's wise to listen.
It's true.
He's the one that
he
called
predicted Kyle Pitts
in like December last year.
I think it might have even been before that, but yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, Costanza was on Pitts for the beginning, so I'm listening on Olave for sure. We got Corey Carter.
I need to start in-depth scouting him.
Yep, exactly. I'm gonna have to pull that tape up. Yep, for sure. We got Corey Carter with the $5. He says Jalen Mayfield has a lot of flexibility, so much flexibility to bend backwards that he could become a seasoned yoga instructor. So, yeah, I mean that flexibility is a blessing and a curse.
If football doesn't work out,
yeah,
maybe he could go into yoga.
Yeah, it's very flexible. But poor Jalen Mayfield, he really shouldn't have been starting this year. It's really asking a lot from him, to be honest.
I'm still blown away. They didn't sign a replacement. It's one of those times where they just decided they weren't going to make a move. Like you trade Julio Jones, and you kind of expect, okay, they'll sign somebody to kind of fill in.
Josh Andrews.
Guard is just another one of those that I don't understand. I know that they're short on cap space, but they can find some cap space if they really want to. I think they're just calling 2021 as a write-off year.
Yeah, and I think at the time we were sort of suspicious of, why they weren't making any moves. And I was like, are they really serious about contending? And they kept, insisting that they were. But I think we all know that was perhaps not 100% true, that they were serious about contending this year. I think they were serious about trying to pretend that they were contending because no team's ever going to go out and say, oh, yeah, we're rebuilding this year. But I think it's becoming more apparent the closer you look at their moves and how they really didn't make any signings that would affect the 2022 cap. How they have really refused to trade away any draft compensation except a 7th-round pick for Lee Smith, which is a 7th-round pick. Who cares? They've held on to all their draft picks except for the 7th. They haven't signed any multi-year contracts to guys except for Mike Davis, but you can get most of his money back next year. It's not guaranteed. So I just think it's becoming more and more clear that this was we just need to get through this sort of year. And, the big moves and the serious competitiveness hopefully starts next year. Hopefully it doesn't take all the way until 2023. But it's, we'll see.
And even if it does, we have the Braves.
At least if you enjoy baseball, you have the Braves. So I'm thinking about adopting the Bills as my AFC team because I live in upstate New York now, and there's Bills fans everywhere. It seems like they're having a lot of fun. So the Falcons will always be my true love. Don't worry, folks. But you can have an AFC team. I think, right? That's allowed.
I don't know.
It would be a clear second fiddle situation.
I don't know about all that.
But I would be taking the Bills, which yes, they're successful now, but this is maybe the second or third most pained franchise in sports outside of the Falcons, in terms of the NFL.
I'd argue they're first, actually.
Yeah. So, it's not like I'm going
I don't know if you're allowed to have fun with people.
Yeah. I know. Well, as soon as I say I'm going to become a Bills fan, they're probably going to immediately collapse and suck. So I really should, not actually make that official. I should just sort of watch them from afar, like the Wolverine meme, So
go support the Saints.
Oh god,
Yeah, it's like trying
Bring
to
bad
convince,
juju over there.
it's like trying to convince your wife that she should let you have a girlfriend.
Look, everyone's doing it these days. Open relationships, you know. I don't think the Falcons are the jealous type. The Falcons can't even win games, so like I feel like they don't have time to worry about anything else right now.
The Falcons will play the Bills in
That's
January
true.
up
That's
in
true.
Buffalo.
Yep.
Oh
yep.
my God.
I'll show up in a Bills jersey. No, I would never do that. I would never do that. But I probably just wouldn't go to the game if it came down to that.
That will go viral on Falcons Twitter, I'm sure.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, no, I officially can't say I'm going to cheer for the Bills because then they would immediately suck. So it would have to be some sort of like, tangential thing. But we got Corey Carter with the $1. He says, I refuse to play Mac Jones over Matt Ryan. Ooh. Not like Mac Jones had a great fantasy day either, but he says, I now trail by 5. Yeah. I was not brave enough to start Matt Ryan. I think I slotted in Cam Newton this week over Matt Ryan. Because I was like...
I had Mac Jones, and I thought about starting him because it was Atlanta, but actually, literally the one reason I didn't was because I thought the Pats would go up and they'd stop passing. Yeah. So at least save myself, from that, knowing this defense.
Yeah. I mean, Mac didn't have a great fantasy day, certainly. I mean, I started him in my 2 QB league, and he got me a decent stat line. Probably more than any non-QB I would have put in there, but, not tremendous by his standards. He was actually having a pretty decent fantasy run the last couple weeks, but we got, let's see, Corey Carter again with the $5. He says, I'm no coach, but a run for no gain on 1st and 15, followed by a play-action screen to the running back. On the first possession of the second half when you're trying to get your offense going is genius? Do we really think that helps the team from a play calling standpoint? The answer, Corey, is no. I think by the time the second half came around, they were so concerned for Matt Ryan's safety that they were trying to go to this quick game and lean more on the run to honestly just protect Matt Ryan and try to get some sort of rhythm going. The problem is the running game sucks ass, and they have no threats to run after the catch in a screen situation. So that's why it didn't work.
They ended up pulling the plug entirely after the Patriots went up 19-0.
Yeah.
It just went to Josh Rosen at that point.
Yeah.
So which of the backup quarterbacks look best? Anyone have thoughts on that?
Well,
I started the Patriots defense, so they both looked really good to me, especially Josh Rosen.
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was a beautiful pick six.
Kyle Van Noy had 2 sacks. He had a pick 6. My God.
Yeah. So to that one guy in my mention saying that he would be fine if we traded Matt Ryan and went into the season with Josh Rosen as the starting quarterback, that game was for you.
I will. If had Josh Rosen, can you imagine if Josh Rosen had gone downfield against prevent defense and let a field goal drive?
That'd have been really funny.
We'd be having a civil war about whether or not to start Josh Rosen right now.
Hell yeah. That's
the answer
that's
is
the kind
no,
of
by the way.
Yeah,
but
no.
it would still be happening. I remember fans were clamoring to give Dominique Davis a chance a few years ago.
Yeah,
and he could have been the future, but they never let him play.
No, they never gave him a chance. That's why he didn't catch on anywhere in the NFL. It's because the Falcons wouldn't bench that bum Matt Ryan in favor of Dominique Davis. So
I think the backups had 3 combined passes and 2 of them were picks.
Yes, that was a great that was a great showcase of how no one's going to look any better than Matt Ryan at this point. I don't care who you have back there; they were going to look terrible in this game. Patrick Mahomes would have gotten his ass kicked in this one. So, Nico with the $2 with the same comment, running the ball on 1st and 15. Why, Kevin? Why do we do that? For the same reason I said before. They couldn't go deep. They couldn't do any plays probably past 10 yards because Matt Ryan was getting annihilated, and they were trying to sort of switch it up, go to more short game stuff, make it an easier third down, a shorter third down. And as an overall strategy, I hate that. But in this game, when Matt Ryan's getting killed, I sort of understand why they're doing it. I mean, I don't think there was much they could do, and it showed on the field. We got Solaire with the $1. He says, "What's that smell? It's the smell of sweet draft takes. Oh, they sing to me. It's enough to make a man sick."
I accept draft talk now.
Yeah.
It's mid-November.
I think this is like a normal time that teams start talking about the draft, though. Even if you're like in it, like it's like, okay, like we have most of the college season under our belt. We have a pretty good idea of the prospects. Like after week 10, I feel like it's like a normal time to start talking about the draft. So at least they got us to the normal time this year instead of after week 2 like last year. Solaire does say, in all seriousness, if it weren't for the Falcoholic, I'd probably quit being a Falcons fan. This is really awful. Oh well, draft takes, here we come. Well, thank you for the love, Solaire.
Wow, we're doing a disservice to this person.
I know, yeah, we have that's a lot of pressure on us to keep this man's.
Yeah, I don't feel good about that at all. Like we're actively making someone's life much worse than it is.
We're never seeing the pearly gates for that one.
Yeah, that's we're all in this. Well, those contracts were signed in blood, so we're entrenched in this. But you guys, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to stay, but it's just that
I prefer it if they stay.
I mean, I'd prefer it if you stayed,
Yeah,
but you guys didn't sign any contract in blood, so I never thought sports blogging would involve the occult to such an extent. But it's a weird business.
I never took Dave for such a cult leader.
Yeah,
he does it really well, though.
He seems so nice on the surface, he's so friendly, but then you go into that dark room where he records all of his video appearances, and like it gets a little weird in there. So.
Yeah, there's just 10 cameras at all times. He's just staring at all of them blankly.
Looks like the Matrix in there. There's just like a million screens on the wall, all of them just repeating the same image over and over again. Okay.
It is my goal to one day, like, for someone to see one of our shows, not know that we're joking, and to actually like report Dave Choate for like, abusing his employees or something like that.
Yeah.
I think someone should.
Yeah.
Like someone should call the police on Dave.
Yeah. No, don't do that though. Yeah. Well, Matt's a lawyer, so he can handle his own. He can handle his business if someone actually does call.
I object to that.
Yeah. We got Ulysses Ventura with the $5. Says, I don't get the blaming of Matt Ryan because of his money. Matt Ryan agreed to restructure his contract so many times, blamed the previous regime over the last 7 years that has failed to build a decent defense. Under a defensive guru, blame TD and DQ. Yeah, I mean, Ulysses, 100% agree with you, first of all. One thing I do want to note, for people who don't know, the player doesn't have to agree to a restructure. Teams can do it without their consent. And the reason is there's no reason why a player would ever refuse a restructure, because the restructure gives them money that they were going to get in the form of like a game check, like base salary, and gives it to them as a signing bonus, which of course is guaranteed, and they get it immediately. So there's no reason you would be like, actually, no, I don't want you to guarantee me more money, and I don't want you to give it to me right now. So the players actually can't deny it, but I get what you're trying to say. Like Matt Ryan, for the most part, has been willing to, sign contracts at times that have been advantageous for the Falcons, and I think I'll have another chance to do that this offseason.
Maybe Dave Choate can restructure my checks.
No, Dave Choate doesn't do that. Okay, he doesn't talk about salary during the season. That's not an option.
Yeah. I would love more guaranteed money up front.
Come on, you all know we don't get any guarantees, Adnan. There's no guarantees in this business.
Y'all getting paid?
Wait, you guys get paid? We got George. I do have to hurry up because we are over an hour now, so I want to respect everyone's time here. Got a couple more questions to get to. George Costanza with the $3 says, "Let me be fair to McGarry. Everyone said the Patriots were crazy by reaching for a small school tackle called Logan Mankins. McGarry played at a better school against better competition, and in reality he was better collegiately than Mankins, but busts happen." Yeah, I mean, I thought McGarry was a third-round pick. That's where he was on my board. If the Falcons had taken him in the third round, I think we'd be a lot more understanding of his play right now, if you consider it from that lens. Like, if McGarry had been taken in the third round, they didn't trade up for him, being like a serviceable right tackle for a third-round pick, that's like a solid return. Like a lot of third-round picks just bust out entirely. So, like, if he was taken, I think, where he should have been, he'd probably be looked upon a lot more favorably. But because the trade-up happened, because it's a first-round pick, the expectations are a lot higher, and absolutely he's not anywhere near the caliber that you would hope for a first-round offensive tackle. So, All right.
Hey, I've got a question. Is that the real George Costanza?
You'd have to ask him. I've never seen his face. I have. Apparently he loves George Costanza. I think was what we heard. He just thinks the character's cool.
The character is
But
pretty cool.
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, the character is funny. I've watched a little more Seinfeld since George has come into this. I felt like I had to.
I've
So,
started to as well, just
yeah,
out of
it's a good
respect
show.
for George.
It's a good
to be
show.
honest.
Yeah, yeah. All right, we got Corey Carter with the $5. Thank you again, Corey, for that. He says, at this point, I think the only thing that can help any of us Falcons fans is, or any of us, is for the Falcons to relocate to Toronto. So who would be your new team if they did end up moving? He says he's going Jaguars for geographical reasons and because the Panthers can suck it. So
Can
yeah,
you
if the
imagine
Falcons ended up
being a Falcons
disappearing
fan
or
with
for whatever
Jaguars fan?
reason, say the Falcons went away, they got sucked into a black hole or whatever because they just were too bad and the universe said no. Who would be the team you supported then?
It's the same. I went through this when the Thrashers were relocated to Winnipeg, and the answer is nobody. I am all Atlanta teams. So if Atlanta got an expansion franchise, I would root for them. But I just would pay attention to fantasy football and not really have a specific team that I'm.
You'll be like, what's his name with the NFL hat? Just the NFL logo.
Just the NFL logo because I will say if the Falcons did ever end up relocating from Atlanta, I would root against them every single time. I would put all of my energy into hating them.
Yes.
I think my life would be at least 20% better if they moved away and I just rooted against the Falcons. Like just overall, I think that's a good increase in my quality of life, to be honest with you.
That's true. It could end up being a net gain, but
But can you imagine how happy we'd be if we rooted against the Falcons actively?
it would be cathartic in some ways, right?
It'd be like being a Patriots fan where you just win all the time. Like there's no pain involved with it. They're just what's going to happen regardless, and it's all going to work out for you.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Patriots. They had to go through one mediocre season before they found their quarterback of the future. So.
Yeah, so infuriating.
Bro, I will be damned if the Falcons leave Atlanta and that's when they start winning. That's when they start winning.
That would be it.
Fuck that.
All right, we got two more to get to. Let's see. We got George Costanza again with the $3. Thank you, George. He says, watching the Lions, almost wish we had Campbell as our coach. That team is devoid of talent, but they play hard for him. They're running through walls trying to be competitive. I think he's the right hire for them. Right now, I'm more confident in the Lions than the Falcons. I mean, I do like Campbell. Like I do like how open he is emotionally. I think that's something that we need to see more from NFL coaches. They're also buttoned up and they sort of hide it, and I think Campbell wears it on his sleeve, and I do actually appreciate that. I honestly don't think, other than at quarterback, that the Lions roster is that much worse than the Falcons. So I think Arthur Smith, has done more with the roster than Dan Campbell has with the Lions. The Falcons are beating bad teams. The Lions aren't beating anyone right now. Now, they did just tie the Steelers with their backup quarterback, but I'm hesitant to give too much credit for that because Mason Rudolph is, worse than the 32nd best starter in the NFL. So, but, I do like Campbell. I do appreciate his style.
So for me, Dan Campbell reminds me of Dan Quinn. But if Dan Quinn had a worse childhood and he has all this rage built up into him, because he seems to be a lot more of the a lot less of the X and O's and a lot more of the I'm gonna yell a bunch of motivational posters at people sort of thing. Maybe he'll prove me wrong at some point. I think it's hard to win with Jared Goff, but I think we'll see. But
yeah, that Jared Goff trade.
Dan Campbell is like the Doodle Bob version of Dan Quinn. for anyone who gets the SpongeBob reference.
Yes, I agree. I like that.
Oh, I just laughed to be polite. I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah, SpongeBob for the win. Yeah, I appreciate that. That's a good one on. All right, we got Corey Carter with the $1. Says, I felt like Aikman and Buck actually did as good a job as possible taking care of Matt Ryan and the Falcons. It's like they actually felt sorry for all of us. They did. They legitimately apologized before they mentioned the Super Bowl. He was like, look, they made me do it. He wasn't going to do it, unless they made him. So, that did make me feel a little bit less ire towards Buck, because Buck in the past has not been the kindest to the Falcons. Aikman too, but I think they were really trying not to kick the team while they were down, not to really bring it up, and the network told them they had to, and they had to do it, but they handled it about as well as I think they could have. So.
I don't hate Joe Buck.
Yeah, no, Aikman's the more annoying one.
Yeah. Overall, in baseball and everything, he's very monotone with some calls, and that's pretty infuriating. But I think he does a good job overall.
I think Buck is solid.
Call on the Minneapolis Miracle. That's an all-timer.
Yeah. I don't mind Buck as much as Aikman. I think Aikman can be kind of annoying. But what can you do? All right. TC Colorado with a $3 last tip. Please don't put any more in, guys. We have to get out of here. If you want to, we might have to read them on Wednesday's shows. What I'm saying. TC with the $3. Thank you, TC. He says, just tipping to say thank you for sticking with us through the bad times. You're welcome, TC. Thank all of you guys for sticking with us. Thanks everyone for the questions, for the tips. We really appreciate it. Before we get out of here, I want to remind folks you can check out and join us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. Where you can get access to some exclusive perks, including an exclusive podcast version of our post-game shows that only is available to patrons. They're ad-free, high-quality WAV files. They're awesome. They sound great. So if the podcast is your thing, you definitely get something there. We also have Q&As for the video folks. You get some swag on the Falcoholic Discord, which you can join at the link in the show description. Also, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. That helps us out in a big way. And make sure you follow our great guest. He is at Falcoholic Matt Chambers. Matt, anything you're working on you'd like to plug?
No, actually, I'm about to go on vacation, so I'm not going to have anything on the Falcoholic for probably the whole week. It's going to be great.
Awesome. Yeah, well, congratulations to you. Yeah.
Congrats.
You picked the perfect
Enjoy
week.
You guys covering me.
You picked the perfect week to go, honestly. So great job. Great job by you. We also have with us co-host Adnan Ikic. He's at Say Which Way. Adnan, in Matt's absence, what will you be working on this week?
Wait, Matt, how'd you get vacation time? Last time I went to Dave asking for time off, he kicked me in the shin.
That's that is his move, but he's a little slow in the winter months. His joints are covered in snow all the time, so that's really when you kind of have to ask after first snow.
Yeah. We did get snow here today, so that you should have waited until now, Adnan.
That was my mistake. I asked him before first snow.
Yep.
When he was very spry on his feet.
Exactly. Yeah. Once that cold and wet hits, Dave's a different man. So. But anything you'd like to plug on?
Fantasy Stud and Dud just went. I'm also doing a Player of the Game article from this past game. It's going to be AJ Terrell.
Yes. Fantasy Stud is the opposing DST right now. So.
The Fantasy Stud this week, I literally put as nobody. I could not pick a single player.
Opposing DST is what I would say. That's a stud. Oh, man. It was a rough one for fantasy if you started any Falcons. I started Kyle Pitts, and the tight end is such a disaster that Kyle Pitts getting 7 points is still a top 10 fantasy week for a tight end.
Yeah, like I said, I started the Patriots defense. It never goes wrong betting against the Falcons. I'm going to get a fantasy win out of this.
Oh yeah. Smart call there by you for sure. Guys, I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin. I think we're going to be doing a little bit of a light weekend at the Falcoholic, taking some time to get away from this disgusting game. And we'll be back at you next week with more stuff. So keep an eye out there. I'll probably be doing another mock draft just because it's draft season officially. No, I'm just kidding. It's just the time of year where it actually makes sense to do mock drafts. So I'll probably do another one of those. We will go from there with some more content next week. You can join us on Wednesday, guys, at 8:10 p.m. Eastern for our next show, where we will break down the matchup with the Jaguars, where I believe the Falcons are not favored. So I believe it's even. I believe it's even with the Jaguars. So
that hurts.
Which I think is fair. Yeah, which I think is fair at this point. So the Jaguars defense has been playing great last couple of weeks.
If we lose that game, I'm in all-out tank mode at that point.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I will be at the point where I will be regretting our wins earlier in the season.
Yeah, I mean, if they can, if they start losing at that speed and they lose to the Jaguars, you're talking about potential top 5 pick again. So,
that Lions game will be legendary.
Yes, the tank bowl, the toilet bowl, I guess would be what you call it. But who can tank harder? I guarantee you, it's the Lions. But.
Yeah. That's they have so much experience with it. I mean,
they do.
Really
they're like, I don't know how you outplay that in the toilet bowl. Like they're really good at that. Yeah.
But they have one playoff win since the school system was integrated.
Such a weird way to phrase it, but is that related? Yeah. I didn't. That's a great stat. I did not know that.
I think they have one playoff win since Brown v. Board of Education. I'm not even joking.
That, obviously not great. So, yeah. All right, guys. Well, we have to get out of here. I got to make it to pick up my to-go by 8:00. So we're pushing it a little close here. So, thank you all for watching. From Matt. This is a very rare Matt appearance. So make sure you guys, give Matt a shout out for his every 5 years.
You'll see him again in 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. He comes on once every lunar eclipse. Yeah, so so we had the lunar eclipse yesterday. Matt comes on, and then you have to wait till the next one before you see him again.
Yeah, he'll come on again when the Lions win another playoff game.
There you go. So probably not for a while, but yeah. Thanks, Matt, for coming on. Thanks, Adnan, and thank all of you guys for hanging out with us. We will see you on Wednesday for the next show. Until then, guys, enjoy a Falcons-free football weekend. Gonna be some good games, so try to enjoy those.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, Well, we'll see him again before Thanksgiving.
Wednesday. We'll be there Wednesday.
Yeah. But still, happy Thanksgiving. I mean, that's correct, Adnan. Good job. But yeah, we will talk to you guys then. So have a